a monster.
I hate what I've become. The nightmare's just begun. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel it deep within. It's just beneath the skin. I must confess that I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster. I feel like a monster.
So, moving on, the hive crone. Now, the hive crone is used to establish air superiority over worlds targeted by the hive mind. Perfectly adapted to aerial combat, the creature is able to wrestle enemy aircraft out of the sky. This is also accomplished thanks to living missiles known as tentaclids, which attach themselves to the wings of the hive crone. Once the skies have been cleared of hostile forces, hive crones will soften up ground targets with its drool cannon, splashing its prey in acidic digestive fluid. But the hive crone is also able to fly close enough to its prey and tear apart with its bladed spurs on its underside. And they also have a set of dorsal chimneys which emit a cloud of toxic gas. And in addition, the hive crone has bulging sacs on its underbelly, which are used to carry the acidic bile for the drool cannon.
This creature has almost the exact same flight characteristics as the harpy. It flies and moves like a bat. Its maximum speed is roughly 315 kilometers per hour, and its body can turn and twist much like a bat in flight. It can even fly. It even still has lift when flying upside down.
That's impressive.
And considering the way in which the creature's wings move, it can generate lift that way and continue flying while upside down. Yes, I just said this creature can turn belly up and keep flying without any change to its flight characteristics, except for the fact it's upside down.
Yeah.
So everything's inverted. The creature's grappling is enhanced, but its senses, however, are what really kind of have to stand out here. Understand the tentaclids, with the way they're shaped, their weight, and their size, would only fly at an estimated 250 meters per second if they were fired off of its wings like a bullet. Which means if they're trying to grab an aircraft, this thing has to be super sensitive to changes in the air, beyond even the level of a housefly. If you've ever tried to hit a housefly with your hand, I bet you've missed. In order to react and move fast enough to aim its weapon accurately enough to hit the much faster moving targets around it. This also means that unless it has some form of protection, which we could not discern, a sonic boom would potentially damage its senses.
Oh.
And repeated sonic booms could outright destroy those senses. Unless it has some way of sensing the sonic boom coming and toning its senses down or turning them off outright before the sonic boom hits. Its weapon, the drool cannon, would be effective versus troops in the same sense that napalm is, except for you wouldn't have the collateral fire damage all over the place. Would you get the same effect when you see someone, say, on an alien movie get hit with xenomorph blood? Quite similarly, but it would only affect the person that it actually hit. Anything else it hit, unless the person willingly stepped into it, the collateral damage is minimal. So this is a direct hit or direct touch weapon only, not something that has a very big, what we would call blast range. Defensively, the creature is incredibly armored versus air-to-air attack because of all the armor on top of it. But just like all the other creatures, the wings are incredibly vulnerable, and unlike all the other creatures, the underbelly is also incredibly vulnerable. A dedicated anti-aircraft unit from the ground will rip it to pieces, especially considering its very, very slow speed. If they adjust their targeting parameters for something flying at biplane speeds or mono-winged early 1930s aircraft speeds, they will easily be able to hit it and shoot it down.
The only problem with that is if they manage to shoot its underbelly, that's a whole bunch of acid which is poured on our heads.
Actually, no.
No?
We looked at that as a possibility. I was actually getting to that part. If the acid is hit, the wings will generate an updraft lift that will slam the acid back into the creature.
Oh. Unexpected.
Because of the way the wings are flapping, they flap all the way down till they touch the tips, similar to the way a bat flaps its wings, and that the wings go all the way under its body. The air current pushing back up against its body would have the same effect that if you, like we mentioned this before, when you have the back window of the truck open and the driver's side and you spit out, the spit comes back around and hits you in the back of the head. Same effect. The acid would spill out, it would flap its wings and suck it back into itself, basically instantly killing it.
Oh.
Since its body is actually made of parts that are vulnerable to its own acid.
That's a pretty bad design.
Not much surprises here other than the sheer sensory input that must be going through this creature's head in order for it to be able to accurately hit stuff. It flies, and that is actually an odd statement that I don't get to say a lot in this series. We're examining aircraft, and I don't always get to say it flies.
That's true. So, moving on then, take a look now at the Shrike. Now, Shrikes are basically winged versions of the warrior bioform, and they fulfill similar battlefield roles and allow synaptic coverage to extend to the fast-moving elements of the swarm, such as gargoyles and harpies, which might otherwise outrun the synaptic creatures incapable of flight and be separated from the hive mind. While sacrificing some of the protection of their chitin carapace for the ability of flight, few enemies expect an assault of creatures as large as Tyranid warriors from the sky, allowing them to perform surprise attacks with great speed and efficiency, which in turn makes up for their relative lack of protection.
It doesn't fly. The body is too heavy and the wings are too short. We tried it out in the wind tunnel, and simply put, the creature doesn't fly. It only generates 2,200 newtons or 2.2 kilonewtons of force and requires a minimum of 6.9 kilonewtons of force to get airborne and maintain gliding. The ability to actually fly and gain altitude would require 9.1 kilonewtons of force, which is the same amount of force that is applied by an American alligator's bite. Biologically speaking, you simply cannot fit the muscle density into its wings with how short they are to actually get this thing off the ground. We even tried figuring out if there were some series of complex motions it could use similar to the way a bee does in order to gain flight, and the answer is no, it cannot. Sorry, Tyranids.
And they were doing so well.
As discussed in the Men at Arms of Blitzkrieg's episode, these creatures are capable of withstanding most, if not all, small arms fire. I don't see the armor plating, even as thin as it is, still being penetrated by anything less than a 20mm cannon or a light anti-armor rocket. This is because it's roughly between 18 and 35 millimeters of solid carapace, which is actually thicker than that of a horseshoe crab, which has been shown to repel 30 caliber bullets. Firepower, it has the access to a boatload of biomorphs that we've gone over before. However, I suspect it will not be able to carry the heavy impaler cannon or the super heavy venom cannons that it would need to kill a tank. Its muscles are already beyond taxed with just keeping its body moving, which means that we're likely to see these more focus on crushing claws, which have the same crushing force as a megalodon by roughly 16 tons per square inch, as opposed to actually seeing this creature using ranged weaponry, since its muscular structure is more apt at withstanding impact due to how it's arranged. This is why it's perfect that it can align. This is perfect. It's as if you can align the fist in such a way to align the bones perfectly to allow it to slam down with maximum force and minimum counter impact into its hand. It's the same thing as if you were using a sledgehammer. You will notice that it's angled properly and everything, so the sledgehammer actually delivers its force without delivering significant amounts of force back into the handle that would cause the handle to break every time it's swung. However, if you re-angle it, the sledgehammer handle would immediately break. So for purposes of firing a gun, it would have incredibly bad recoil compensation. This is why I suspect it would be equipped with lighter biomorph weapons similar to what you see on a gaunt for range, and be focused more on using claws or even a mace-like tail for a siege breaker to kill armored vehicles. That much said, it doesn't fly. It doesn't even glide. This creature would drop out of the Tyranid high strip and impact the planet at near terminal velocity and die instantly.
Will they be able to use their wings to aid in, say, jumping?
Nope.
At least. No, they're that crap. Okay.
They do not even generate proper... It's like if you put a pair of wings on yourself and you're not in a wingsuit, you're not going to glide, and this most certainly is not going to help you jump.
What a shame. Well, let's take a look at the last thing for this edition, the Tyrannocyte. Now, these things are effectively ship-to-surface transport spores even. They impact onto the ground, and the landing causes its belly to split, disgorging the Tyranid creatures that dwell inside it, and then it fills itself with gas and then flies back up into the air, while raining death upon the enemy with 5 death spitters.
You're trying to make something that flies, right? Not an artillery shell, right? It doesn't fly. It doesn't glide. It doesn't even slow its descent properly.
It just goes splat.
It slams into the ground at beyond terminal velocity because its design and shape actually are aerodynamic for purposes of traveling downward. It's designed like an artillery shell. It would, with machine guns attached. So it would fly like an artillery shell, firing machine guns wildly before slamming into the ground and delivering a kinetic force impact wave and creating an instantaneous foxhole of biomorph remains.
So effectively, this is what you get if you just throw a tomato on the concrete.
More like a watermelon, but yeah. So yeah, if you want to see how well this thing flies, everyone, go buy a watermelon, get on a second story of a house, and throw it out the window into the concrete and see what happens.
You might get a bounce if you're lucky.
I can also say we broke this one, but we used to 3D print in this case.
Well, that's lucky at least.
The reason we used the 3D print is because we wanted to see how well it would actually prevent itself from falling to the ground. So we 3D printed it, stood on the 3rd story of a university building, leaned out, and dropped it. We didn't have a 3D printed model anymore.
Oh, dear.
Matter of fact, we couldn't find all the pieces because most of them went into the grass.
Really? Oh, dear. Well, it could be worse, I suppose.
It could.
So, all in all, they started out strong and then just collapsed upon themselves like a flan on a cupboard.
They started out strong and went out with a whimper.
So, how do they compare with the other races so far?
They get points for maneuverability and for having grappling capabilities, something I never actually thought I'd say about a flying vessel.
You think the Orcs would have that at least?
But other than that, I don't...
Are they at the bottom?
They're not at the bottom.
Who's at the bottom? The tower, isn't it?
The Space Marines.
Oh, Space Marines, oh, okay.
Remember, like, nothing they had flies.
No, they had that one that flew.
If it destroyed everything around it, yes.
So, at the top it's the Orcs, isn't it, at the top?
Mm-hmm.
Oracle. Then it's the Eldar?
It's Orcs, Eldar,
Yep.
Nids, Tau, Space Marines so far.
So the Nids are in the middle of the ground, or middle of the air rather. That's not bad. They're not the worst.
They're not the worst, and I do have to give them points for being able to grab onto stuff. I can't really give the Eldar many points because, let's face it, most of their stuff doesn't fly, and they have armor so thin that I have nail clippers thicker than their armor.
And that's not an exaggeration.
So, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Aeronautica. I'm gonna have to give the disclaimer, the announcement again here at the end because I don't know which who gets which part this week, but I want to make sure it's on both parts. The series will resume on either July 19th or July 26th. That means that for those of you on my channel over here watching the end of this, I will be at Anime 2017 The Hague in Amsterdam on June 8th through the 11th. I will be with my girlfriend for the rest of the month of June, and I will be at Bovington Tank Fest on June 25th. And then on July 13th through the 16th, I'll be at TrotCon in Columbus, Ohio, which means that I can't be at the wind tunnel and I won't have access to the professor or graduates who've been helping us with this series. So I'm sorry, but we won't be able to resume until either the 19th or the 26th. So I guess that's it.
Until then, this has been Remrace from 40k Theories.
And this has been Fiaura the Tank Girl.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.